Let's take a break. Coffee break, that is. Hora del cafecito.
Welcome to another coffee break where we're able to learn, discuss, and discover various topics. I'm glad you're able to join me on your coffee break today. So grab yourself a hot cup of coffee and have a seat. Today's topic will be taking a good look at community assessment tools, specifically 8 tools that you can use to assess your community's strengths and weaknesses. And it's definitely a very important first step in planning effective projects. So by taking the time to learn about your community's issues, your organization can discover new opportunities for projects and prevent the duplication of existing community assets. So again, we'll be taking a look at 8 different community assessment tools. So if you don't have a pen and paper handy, make sure that you do save this for future reference. First tool that we'll be looking at is a survey. A survey is one of the best known and most popular methods of assessing a community's strengths and weaknesses. Surveys can be very simple by targeting a very small group of your community stakeholders, or it can definitely be a very complex and complicated survey where you're sampling large segments of a population. But an effective community survey definitely has the power to reveal a wealth of very useful information and information that's easily quantifiable, and usually it's a very good option for many projects. But careful planning is one of the most important aspects of a successful survey. The design of most surveys begins with what's called a statement of purpose, or why the survey is being conducted. This statement of purpose will help you determine what types of questions to ask, how the survey should be administered, who should take the survey, and in general, it's best to keep a survey short with easy to understand questions. You also want to consider how the survey is going to be delivered. A survey's design will definitely change based on your delivery, whether that's a phone call, that's mail, physical mail, email. Are you putting it on a company website, organizational website, or is it an in-person interview, or is it something that you want to do virtually? But keep in mind how the people that you're targeting would want to or tend to communicate, because it's important to be mindful of that. If very few people in your community, for instance, have limited or internet access, you might want to use a paper survey and consider conducting this at a community gathering place like a library, community meeting, at a market or a restaurant. And you may be able to find yourself having the need to combine several delivery methods to get a clear picture of the community. So you might want to be and have the option to make some phone calls, physical mail, send out some emails, put surveys on websites, and in-person interviews, as well as virtual interviews. And it's always good to be able to be flexible so that you have a clearer picture from the community and from different stakeholders. But it's very important to test your survey on a small group of people before distributing it to a larger or your target audience, because this will help you identify poorly worded questions or flaws in your survey design that might result in getting some inaccurate information. And you want to make sure that you do allot enough time for people to take the survey, usually 30 to 45 minutes, or depending on the survey length. But make sure that you understand that the ultimate goal or objective of using a survey tool is to identify the opinions of neighborhood residents on a particular issue or matter. The second community assessment tool that you might want to use or could use is called an asset inventory, which basically is a technique for collecting information about a community through observation. And it's similar to a storekeeper keeping stock of their merchandise. But instead of cataloging products in the store, community members are cataloging assets in their own community. And it works best when it's conducted at a community meeting or a gathering. But make sure that when you are conducting your asset inventory, that you do have small teams of participants walk around your community to identify people, places, and things that they think are valuable, and maybe not walking around if there's no need to. If your community is small, you can definitely do this in one place without having them to walk the community unless they really don't know the community. But team members then discuss their choices, create a list for the team, and share with the larger group. In ensuring that you are allowing for enough time, make sure that it's 1 to 1.5 hour process. So allow for that time for this asset inventory to take place. And the objectives for conducting an asset inventory, again, are for you to be able to identify community assets that members of the community think are important to the community's development. And it helps to reveal why people believe these assets are important. The third community assessment tool that you can use is called community mapping. And community mapping is used to reveal people's different perspectives about a community. And it requires few resources and little time, and can definitely be adapted for participants virtually if you need to, or of course, in person is always a great choice as well. But it has the availability and opportunity to engage folks of any age or educational background. And this process is definitely a facilitated activity where individuals or groups of participants draw a map of their community, making certain points of importance and noting how often they visit these places. So a facilitator leads a discussion about the maps, while another facilitator or a volunteer records the discussion. Community mapping can be conducted both at a informal or formal community gathering. And these can be, whether it's your library, community meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure that, again, you are allotting plenty of time for community mapping process to take place, which usually is, again, 1 to 1.5 hours. And the objectives of a community mapping tool is to identify participants' use and access of community resources, comparing their perceptions of the level of importance of these community resources, and ultimately identifying participants' or community's needs. So that is for that one. The fourth one would be using a daily activity schedule as a tool to find out about work habits of community members. And it's an excellent way to learn about a community's division of labor and perceptions of work. And it's basically based on gender and age. And it can also help identify areas where new vocational techniques or tools might be used to improve a community's work efficiency. Again, this is a facilitated process or activity where participants are separated into groups of men and women, youth or adults, and asked to develop an average daily schedule based on their daily activities. And a facilitator leads the participants in a discussion about different activities of the community members, while another facilitator or volunteer records the main points of the discussion. And usually this type of assessment reveals a great deal about perceptions of gender that might limit the effectiveness of a project. And it has the ability to limit its effectiveness by affecting the participation of community stakeholders. So we'll stop it. The next community assessment tool that we'll be looking at is daily activities schedule. And using this tool will allow you to find out about the work habits of the community members. And it's an excellent way to learn about a community's division of labor and perceptions of work. And it's usually based on gender and age. And it can also help identify areas where new vocational techniques or tools might be used to improve a community's work efficiency. And usually this is a facilitated activity where participants are separated into groups of men and women, and then asked to develop an average daily schedule based on their daily activities. And the facilitator leads the participants in a discussion of the different activities of the community members, while another facilitator or volunteer records the main points of the discussion. And this type of assessment reveals a great deal about perceptions of gender that might limit the effectiveness of a project by affecting the participation of some community stakeholders. It can also provide important information about when different groups or groups of people are available to participate in certain types of activities, and you want to make sure that you are allotting maybe 1 to 1.5 hours of time for this particular activity. And again, the objective of this is to identify the daily routines of different people in your community. The next assessment tool that you can use is a seasonal calendar. And this activity reveals changes in seasonal labor supply and demand, household income patterns, food availability, demands on public resources such as schools, transportation systems, recreational facilities, nonprofits. And this is a facilitated activity where a group of community members is divided into smaller groups based on age, gender, and profession, and the facilitator asks each group to identify different tasks members must do at different times of the year, of course related to paid and unpaid work, social events, educational activities, family health, community health, or environmental changes, and plot them on a timeline, which they then share with the other groups. And then the facilitator leads a discussion in which participants examine the differences. And these results can be used to determine the best times of the year to begin certain projects and to consider how projects will affect different groups of people. For this particular project, you want to make sure that you allot at least 2 hours of time, and your objective for using a seasonal calendar or this tool is to identify a community's yearly patterns of labor, household income, and expenditures, health and welfare, recreation, etc., of a community. The next community assessment tool that you could possibly use is what's called a community cafe. And a community cafe creates the atmosphere of a restaurant or cafe in which small groups of people from the community discuss issues that are raised by the facilitators. And it can be both something that's entertaining for your group, but also a very unique way to learn about a community by engaging stakeholders in direct dialogue. And this is where you have tables set up, and each table has a host or a facilitator who guides the discussions on a particular topic. Participants move from table to table after a certain amount of time as each issue is discussed, and major ideas are recorded by the host, who report the most common ideas from those discussions to the cafe host or maitre d' or the entire group at the end. And organizations can use these ideas to determine what projects to undertake in their respective communities. You want to make sure that you allot at least 1.5 to 2 hours to this particular activity, and make sure that you understand that the objectives of this is to engage community stakeholders in meaningful discussions about the community, their community. And you're also looking to identify the major issues that the community is faced with, as well as establish a relationship between your organization and the community. The seventh focus, or the seventh community assessment tool that you can take a good look at is focus groups. And focus groups are carefully planned discussions used to determine a community's preferences and opinions on a particular issue or idea. And conducting a focus group requires careful planning and someone skilled at facilitating discussions, because most focus groups will consist of 5 to 10 diverse stakeholders. Your participants will be asked a series of very carefully worded questions that focus on different issues in the community. And an effective focus group will seem more like a job interview than a lively debate or group discussion. Though some organizations include focus groups at meetings, it can be more effective to conduct a focus group in a private setting with 1 or 2 facilitators and someone to record participant responses. And again, you want to make sure that you allot enough time. We would say 1 to 2 hours for this particular activity. And the objectives for conducting your focus groups are, again, to identify stakeholders' opinions about specific community issues, and identifying how stakeholders believe these community issues should be addressed. And last but not least, a community assessment tool that you can use is a panel discussion. And a panel discussion is a guided exchange involving several experts on a specific subject or issue. And panel discussions are carefully structured and typically involve a moderator or facilitator who asks panelists specific questions about the community or about a specific particular issue. And it's often city governments, nonprofits, NGOs, hospitals, universities, and universities usually pay experts to collect and interpret this very detailed information about communities and the issues that they are faced with. And drawing on this expertise is an excellent way to learn about a community without having to invest a lot of time or money in a new community assessment. But before conducting a panel discussion, it's important to and that you are identifying community members who are qualified to talk about a particular issue and its resources. Panels generally have 4 to 6 experts on a particular issue. You might be discussing community health, so you might want to include a doctor, nurse, health practitioners or officials from local health offices, and a community healthcare expert from a local nonprofit or NGO might be good as well. But it allows you to get a broader view of your community when you consider facilitating a series of panel discussions on different issues. Panel discussions are powerful in that it's a tool that can definitely raise awareness of your organizational members, and it can quickly, or community residents, for them to quickly learn about service opportunities from the experts. So again, make sure that you are allotting enough time for this, but it's usually about an hour. And of course, it's important to understand the objective of a panel discussion in that you want to hear what experts have to say about specific community issues. And that rounds it out for today's topic, which was using or identifying various community assessment tools that would help you assess your community strengths and weaknesses in ensuring that you are planning effective service projects. So that's it for today's coffee break. Make sure that you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and share this video so get back to work or whatever it is that you are doing. And we'll see you at the next coffee break. Should you want a workshop on this topic or very specific community assessment tools, feel free to get at me. Lates.